Hey, everybody, welcome back to the NerdNest podcast. It is me, and it is also going to be somebody else very soon. I'll talk about that in a second. Before we get to the show, there's a couple of things that I wanted to talk about. First off, it's been an exceedingly long time since I've done one of these live. So if I screw something up, if the sound sounds bad, let me know in the chat and I'll see what I can fix. But we'll see how it goes. Big thank you to everybody who's in the live chat already. Before we get to the show, one of the things that I wanted to do is just break down how the show is going to work for all of the people who are watching this live over at youtube.com/nerdnest. And here's how the show is going to go. In the first half of the show, I've got some topics that I went and found that I wanted to discuss with all of you. And then in the second half of the show, I'm going to be responding to your live comments and questions. So, you send in comments just right through the chat. And one thing I will say is sometimes during the show, if there's enough people here, the chat starts to go by pretty quick. And if I can't keep up with it, I might miss your message. You can feel free to use the super chat if you want to. And it does two things. Number one, it gives me awesome things to talk about on the show. And number two, it also supports the show. So thank you for that. But it's not just me on the show today. I'm also joined by my good friend, Rich. How's it going, Rich?
Going great, man. I have been doing a lot of playing demos. So I've just been having fun with that. And I'm excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, me too, man. It's been a long time since we've done these things live, and that's why I'm probably going to mess 1,000 things up. I just realized
All good.
that like the sound things you're on the wrong channel, and there's nothing I can do about that because I already hit the go live button, but that'll be okay. Everybody who's watching the show live, let us know if Rich is too quiet or if I'm too loud or anything like that. I'll try and get everything dialed in. And then the more often that I do this, the better I'll get at it. Somebody is asking in chat, there's like productivity is asking in chat, did I put it on screen? Is this a one-time thing? Who knows, man? I can't promise anything. What I will say is I want to do more of the live stuff more often because when we do the live stuff, I get way more of a chance to actually interact with all of you guys. So I really do appreciate that. All right. Like I said at the very top of the show, we're going to be talking about some predetermined topics, some things that we went and found. And we're going to start with Valve. As you know what? I just put out a video, I don't know, a month ago. Feels like it was longer than that ago, about Valve hitting 3.2%, or not Valve, but Linux hitting 3.2% of the overall market share for people who are playing games on the Steam hardware survey. 3.2% is pretty great, and I love that that's happening. But actually, they were wrong about that. Like, Valve apparently reported the information wrong. It's not 3.2%. Everybody in chat's making fun of Rich Russ, that I can't get anybody right. This makes me laugh.
I egged it on. I egged it on.
Oh,
Sure,
did you?
so.
Okay. So what we're seeing there is that it's 3.2%, but then they have a new correction, and that correction is actually saying that it's actually 3.58%, which is a huge jump. Like, I was not expecting a jump that big in the same month to go from 3.2% to 3.58. It sounds like a really, really small amount, but it, like, when you look at like the dedicated Steam tracker that Liam over at Gaming on Linux has, you can see that this trend line is going up. But man, oh man, there is a hockey stick effect starting to take place. You know what I mean, Rich?
100%. I know what you mean. This is an insane leap from 3.2 to 3.58. I will say, I'm going to give you a correction to your correction and give you some credit. You were correct when you made that video, right? Like, this correction is for the month of December, but when you made your video, it was for the month of November. It was in the month of December. You were making a video about the month of November's hardware survey, which was also 3.2. So when December finally came out just a few days ago, it looked like it hadn't moved much in the previous month, which is not atypical. It's pretty normal. But then, like you said, it was amended from 3.2 or 3.19 to 3.58, which, like you said, just an insane jump.
Right. And like it's very interesting how fast this is actually growing, because if you're watching the video over on my YouTube channel, I have up this graph, and on the graph we can see that September 2018, December 2018, June 2019, like it is basically flat growth. Like there's almost nothing happening over there. And around the time that the Steam Deck came out, you can see right here on the screen, if you're watching, that the Steam Deck was released in March 2022. And then suddenly, like, there's this big jump. And I would like to say and people are telling me that Rich is quieter. I'm going to turn off my speakers, switch over to headphones, and hopefully I'll be able to fix that. When you look at that huge jump, a lot of people are like, man, that's a lot of Steam Decks that sold. Well, we know at this point now that we haven't had that many Steam Decks sell. How many how many? I know that we know at some point how many had sold, but my question for you is, we knew that it was at least 4 million, but that was a while ago. How many do you think it's been since then, Rich?
I have no idea. I'm gonna say we're at about 6 to 7 million. I didn't mean to do the 6 7 thing. That was
Oh
completely
no.
unintentional. I'm sorry, everybody. But I want to say we're at about 6 to 7 million. Um, so I think that, yeah, I mean, for certain, this is not all due to the Steam Deck, and you can see that just in the operating systems and the chips that account for Linux usage. And I can say for myself, anecdotally, I recently installed CachyOS on my laptop. It's really, really nice. I'm very happy about that. So I expect to install either Cachy or Bazite on my desktop. My desktop, I'm a little bit more precious about, so I'm going to wait a little bit longer. But clearly, there are a lot of factors that are leading towards people trying or switching fully to Linux.
Yeah, I mean, if you had asked me, I don't know, even after the Steam Deck came out, like a couple of years ago, if you had said, "Hey, Bill, are you going to install Linux on your main gaming PC?" I would have said, "No way that happens," because I don't know how to use Linux, and it's just too much of a pain in the ass for me to learn yet another friggin' operating system. Like, I'm already using two operating systems. I use At the time, I use Windows on my gaming PC, and then I use a Mac on my content creation PC. And I don't want to learn yet another thing. So no way I'm going to do that. And here we are. I don't have Windows on any devices except for the Xbox Ally X, which comes with Windows, and the only reason Windows is still on it is in case they pushed like some kind of update and I want to make a video about it. Like literally, it's only there so that I can make something about it if that happens. I don't see myself switching back to Windows anytime soon, even though I know that like right now, I guess NVIDIA support has been getting better over time. But when I tried it, I ran into issues with NVIDIA support. And so if as long as I don't have an NVIDIA GPU, I'm running Linux. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I happen my oh, now I hear a little echo. Not sure if it's just me.
That
Oh, it's
should.
gone.
Oh, okay. That's just you then.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, and my desktop happens to use an AMD Radeon GPU, so I intend to switch it over to Linux. The only thing is it's been my editing computer, and even though I'm on DaVinci Resolve, I just am worried about switching everything over. So the laptop is giving me the test run that I need and giving me a chance to get used to everything on the laptop and then switch over finally to the desktop.
Yeah, once the Steam machine comes out, one of the things that I want to do is I'm gonna make when I make my review video for the Steam machine, I'm going to edit that video on the Steam machine and talk about that process as well as like what I liked about that, what I didn't like about that. And we'll see how it goes because I also edit in DaVinci Resolve, and I know that there's a Linux client, but I've never actually tried it that way.
Yep, same.
Yeah, and so if we go back to this hardware survey, which Gaming on Linux is basically compiling the data that is publicly available from Valve, you can see after the Steam Deck release there was a huge bump, right? But then it started really, really going up, and it continues to go up. And now, honestly, what I would really like to see is you see how he has like that pink trend line across there. I would like to see
Yep.
old trend lines overlaid on that so I could compare like the slope of the trend line to see how much is it increasing over time. Because we were talking about it in our Discord today that there were lots of, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, there was a podcast. I forget the name of the podcast. Liam was on the podcast. Um, Everyone Can Game. Is that what the name of the show is?
I'm gonna get. It's like games for everyone, but I'm gonna get it and let you know in a second.
Okay, so I think he's right. It's Games for Everyone, and that show, there were some predictions on there that I thought were pretty wild. Now I didn't actually watch it yet because I was at work all day, but you guys were chatting about it in Discord, and I'm very curious. The prediction that you said, if I bring up my Discord real quick, I can't find it. Where's my Discord? No, don't turn up your gain. That was on me. Um, like they were predicting. Oh gosh, what was the prediction? Do you remember?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this is the Games for Everyone podcast, and it features Linux for Everyone, Gardner Bryant, Liam from Gaming on Linux, and the Linux Experiment. So the Linux boys are back officially,
Yeah.
and and Liam from Gaming on Linux, his prediction was that that Linux would reach. Did he say 5%? 5% by before the Steam machine was released. So 5% in 2026, but before the Steam machine was released, which I think was the big interesting component of that prediction because like certainly Steam machine is going to bump it up, but for Steam machine to bump it up and for before even that happens for it to reach and it turns out the prediction was 4%. So we're right there, right?
Yeah, it's almost there.
3.58, we're basically 3.6. So it seems like this prediction will likely come true that it will reach 4% before the Steam machine is released.
Yeah, and if that's the case, which I find super interesting, um, like Valve has said that when they are looking at the obstacles that they have in front of them, one of the obstacles that they have in front of them is anti-cheat, and they've been really struggling to get publishers and developers on board with supporting anti-cheat on Linux, even though it should work fine, and it's not a huge ask to get them to support that, but they don't want to, and it's understandable why they don't want to. It's yet one more platform that they have to make sure that their stuff is running on, that they do have to commit like developer hours in order to support that if there's some kind of problem on there. So it is understandable why they don't want to support that, but like there has to be some point. We've talked about this on the podcast before where like Russ has said that tipping point is like 8%. And when you hit 8%, then suddenly people are going to start saying, okay, you know what? Let's go ahead and support this. I don't know if that number is true or not, but it feels like we're on the right track. And you even said in our community Discord, you said, is this the year? Is it? What do you think, man?
It's tough to say. I voted against it being the year in one of the videos I did where we basically took the true false game, the hot takes stuff, and I answered a bunch of questions there. And I said false to anti-cheat kind of being a solved problem on Linux in less than a year. I think the time frame was even larger than that. My thought is that there are just too many games that already exist and have way too much inertia for it to really be a thing. That said, the person that made that prediction on the Games for Everyone podcast was the Linux Experiment. And what he was basically alluding to was that Valve could have their own secure kernel where they could swap between the kernels. So, like if you're playing a non anti cheat game, you just play on a normal kernel. Whereas if you are playing, a game that uses anti-cheat like League of Legends or something like that, it'll swap to the secure kernel, which would have kernel-based anti-cheat enabled. I don't know how realistic it is. It sounds even if it is realistic, it sounds super ambitious. So certainly, I would be dubious at that being available by the end of this year. But if that's something that Valve is working on, that would be awesome. That would be one solution where Valve has always kind of brought the solution to the developers, and this would once again be them doing that.
So when you say that they would be swapping kernels, are you saying that it's like they have the kernel that they use now, which does not allow kernel level access to developers and stuff? They would switch to a different kernel that would allow that at the same, like on the same installation?
That is how, I think his name is Nick. That is how Nick described it. I don't know enough about Linux kernel to even know if you can like hot swap a kernel in the middle of selecting a game. But that's how he described it.
That's crazy to me. I mean, one of the reasons that kernel level access for that kind of thing is a bad thing is because we've seen when it goes wrong. And not through the fault of anyone doing something malicious, but just through incompetence. Like, what was it that happened? I don't know, remember if it was last year or the year before, where all of those Windows installations suddenly had all kinds of problems because there was kernel level access. Do you remember what it was called?
Yeah. No, I don't remember the name of the company. Something
Crowd crowd
CrowdStrike, was that it?
CrowdStrike, yes. I
Okay.
think.
Yeah, and the thing is, Valve has been of two philosophies kind of the entire time. One is that yes, they are very not just pro consumer, but like this philosophy of free and open source that they
Mhm.
that they support is for flexibility, right? It's in the support of everyone being able to have the option that they want. And but in that same vein, right, they want developers to have the options that they want. And so like even though they're always against kernel level access, Valve is against kernel level access, they've never done anything to kind of deter kernel level access or deter like DRM, like invasive DRM. And what they would do instead is try to build a product that doesn't use those things. So with Steam, it has its own DRM, and with anti cheat, they are of course continuing to build on VAC. And what they would like to do is build an option that is ideally better that developers can choose.
Yeah, and I mean, Valve have said that they're hoping that the Steam machine pushes developers to decide to support anti-cheat stuff. And if that's the case, with Linux hitting what's the number again, 3.58% only,
That's right.
then the Steam machine comes out. If it sells well, I mean, let's take a second and make a prediction. How many do you think it sells in the first year?
The Steam machine,
Yeah.
that is so tough. I feel like this is a like very cold take, but I'm gonna say 1 million.
Are you saying that's a cold take because you think people will assume that it's more, or because you think people will assume that
Yes.
it's less?
I think especially our audience is gonna say 1 million. Are you kidding me? It's gonna sell way more than that. But I think 1 million is where I'm at.
I don't know. I think our audiences are fairly well informed when it comes to, like, most of them know that it's sold 4 million, that the Steam Deck sold 4 million in 3 years, and well, 4 million in 2 years. And then probably by now it's somewhere around 5 or 6 or maybe even 7 million at this point. Um, for the Steam machine to sell a million, I think that's actually a high number. I think it's going to be less than a million in the first year for a couple of reasons. Number one, the people who are using Steam, I mean, all of them already have a PC. They already have a thing to play these games on. They don't necessarily need another. You know what I mean? Like, you're getting it not because you need one, but because you want to try it out. I'm getting one not because I need one, because my computer is more powerful than the Steam machine's going to be, but because I want to make a video. I want to make videos about it. I want to talk about it. Same thing with Carrie. Carrie was like, for the people who are watching who've never been here before, Carrie's also on the pre-recorded shows sometimes. Carrie was like, yeah, I'm not getting it. And then you and I were both like, well, we're getting it. And he was like, all right, you guys got me. I think there's a lot of people who will be like, that's really cool. If I needed a computer, I'd buy one, but I don't need a computer. So I think $1 million is very, very generous to Valve for the Steam machine. Let's see. Chris Stamp in chat says, would they sell 500,000 at the launch price? Well, we don't know what the launch price is, but I do anticipate that whatever the launch price is, it's going to go up afterwards. So if you want one, you probably want to get one early before the price increases, just based on, AI and RAM, the Rampocalypse and all of that stuff. But the whole reason that I bring it up is because if the Steam machine is not selling that many devices, I don't see it really pushing this number on its own past 4%. Do you think that that's possible, that the Steam machine comes out and then immediately gives it a 0.5% push?
Like within a month? No. But yes, I think pretty quickly, I do think it's possible for it to give it a 0.5% push. I think that when it goes on sale, if nothing else, a lot of those sales will be front loaded, even more so than the Steam Deck was, right? Because the Steam Deck, clearly we have RAM issues and the Steam machine will be limited, but I actually don't think it's going to be limited the same way that the Steam Deck was in February 2022. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
yeah, because we had the chip shortage.
right? Right, exactly. So, like, I think that they're gonna sell out of whatever their inventory is pretty quickly, but I think that that inventory amount is going to be large compared to what the Steam Deck was back when it launched. And the Steam Deck clearly did have a large impact on Linux market share. Of course, the impact that any given hardware is going to have now is actually going to be less, considering how much larger the user base is today. But I still think it's going to be a significant bump that the Steam machine will give to Linux.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked a little bit about Valve amending those numbers. One thing that I was interested in is I was looking at, again, Gaming on Linux's little chart here for his Steam tracker. And so far, we've just been looking at this top one that just shows like how much percentage Linux uses, versus Windows versus Mac OS and all that stuff. But if you scroll down on there, you can also see the number of the percentages of Linux distros. So for people who are fairly unfamiliar with Linux, the way it works is Linux is like this all-encompassing kernel, and then there's a bunch of different versions of it. Kind of like, and this is a gross oversimplification, but kind of like there's Windows, and then there's Windows 95, Windows NT, and all of that stuff. That's a very gross simplification. But what I'm looking at here is that the number of people who are using SteamOS Hollow, which is the operating system SteamOS 3 that was shipped with the Steam Deck, that has decreased over time. And I find that statistic to be very, very interesting. It's still the most common one. There was a very short time where it wasn't the most common one. But since the Steam Deck came out, it's been the most common one for a really long time, but it's decreasing. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that there's so many people out there that are trying out Linux. Yes, because Valve is making it more popular, but I've seen so many of these videos out there of content creators saying, hey, I'm trying Linux for the first time. And I think that that's really interesting, that over time, SteamOS is getting less popular than as it decreases, and other operating systems that I'm not going to say that we're spawned by SteamOS, but I don't know that they would necessarily exist if SteamOS didn't exist. Those are starting to grow more than SteamOS. Does that make sense, Rich?
Yeah, and that kind of way you stated that about you don't know if these would exist without SteamOS, there's so much layered discussion there, right? Or so much layered nuance to that thought because like what Valve has invested into Linux in these last few years and really beyond that, right? But especially in these last few years, what I think people lose sight of, certainly not the Linux faithful, but there are people that lose sight of the fact that all of those contributions benefit all the distros,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so everything that Valve has done for Linux, Mesa, Vulkan, DXVK, Proton, all of these things are all being taken advantage of, rightfully so, by Bazzite, CachyOS, Chimera, and other distros, right? And so that's been amazing to see. And to an extent, you could argue that those distros kind of get the best of both worlds because they get the updates that Valve makes, and they get the updates that they make. And I say that to say sometimes these distros will choose kind of designs and things like that that Valve doesn't necessarily agree with, let's
Mm-hmm.
say. And so Valve won't take some of the things that Bazzite is doing, for example, and they'll do it their own way. Valve is going to do it their own way. And so Bazzite gets to get the things that Valve did and gets to get the things that they did and give you a little bit of the best of both worlds. And so, honestly, one other thing here too is that the market share for CachyOS has gone above, and I don't know what the trend is, but has gone above Bazzite, right? And I mentioned to you, I was surprised to see that CachyOS is now ahead of Bazzite.
How do you see that on this?
I was looking at the hardware survey, not at the tracker actually.
Oh,
So the
okay,
actual hardware survey. Yeah.
okay. I don't have
Um,
that
and,
handy.
and for those that don't know, CachyOS is a mutable system compared to SteamOS, which is immutable, mutable distro, and it's Arch based like SteamOS. So you're going to get a lot of these, like some things are similar to SteamOS, some things are not. But yes, in this case, it's Arch based, it's mutable, it does not have the Discover Store, and instead opts for you to install things kind of more the traditional way. They provide a GUI using Octopi, but that's different from Bazzite, which is immutable like SteamOS, but Fedora based, unlike SteamOS. And then also they provide, I think they have the Discover Store, I want to say, but they have their own Bazzite store for Flatpaks as well.
Yeah,
Um, yes, CachyOS is not immutable. I said mutable, I think. I tried to. Sorry about that.
yeah. And just for clarification for the people who aren't into the weeds on this stuff nearly as much as we are. Mutable OS means that you can make changes to it. An immutable operating system means that you can't really make changes. It's a lot safer for, you know, a novice like me. So like if I'm sitting down and typing command lines into the terminal or the console, whatever it is that they call it, and I type those things in, I can screw things up real bad on a mutable system. On an immutable system, I should be pretty safe. Am I getting that right?
Yep, you are.
All right, that's what I thought. And then you mentioned all of the contributions that Valve has made to what's the word I'm thinking of to just Linux in general since 2013. I just saw this article yesterday, and it's from Foronix. And I don't know much about this website, but it says Valve and AMD developers delivered the most code contribution to Mesa in 2025. And it like they're showing these graphs of all of these code contributions that are coming from Valve's team. Valve is putting their money where their mouth is. They're saying we're going to put in the work so that the developers don't have to. It's clear to me that they learned a lot from when the first time that they tried to make a console, the Steam machine, the first time around, where they were like, okay, we made a machine, we put Linux on it because we don't like the way that things are going. We want things to be more open. Developers, bring us your games. And developers were like, no, that's a bunch of work for very few people. Why would we bother with that? And even at that time, honestly, I can't believe it was this much, but even at that time, it was like 30% of games on Steam had Linux versions. And I think that I could be remembering the number wrong, but when I think about it, I remember that's a lot. That's more than I thought there would be, but still not enough for the average user to say, yeah, I'm going to give up 70% of my games and go play on a system instead. Valve learned from that, and this time they're like, okay, we get it. What we're going to do instead is we're going to give you we're going to build the tools ourselves so that the developers don't have to do anything. And I think that's the right move.
Yep, I absolutely agree. And I will say too, so some people are pointing out, for example, Valve are paying several open source devs. So like there's a lot of contracting, there's a
Mhm.
lot that Valve does with not just Mesa, but also I'm gonna use another version of Mesa, Mesa Turnip, which was like what they're using for Steam Frame. But yeah, there's just so much work that Valve is doing in that space. And again, the nice thing about it is that it doesn't just benefit Valve, it doesn't just benefit gamers, but it benefits the entire ecosystem.
Exactly. But hey, that's what's going on with Linux. Thanks to, I'm not going to say solely thanks to Valve, but in a big part thanks to Valve. And I think that it's really, really interesting. As somebody who's sick of Windows, I don't like I saw an article today that said that Satya Nadella wants us to stop calling Copilot AI slop, and I'm like, yeah, well, you know what? That's what it is. We're going to call it what it is. And all of the things that they keep doing that is pushing people away from Windows is pushing them towards Linux because Proton just works. And it's not that I'm a Windows hater. I want them to stop doing things that make me mad when I try and use my computer. Like when I delete Copilot and then they reinstall Copilot for some ridiculous reason. I don't understand why that keeps happening. Like that kind of thing. But let us know in the comment section down below what you guys all think of it. Do you think that Valve will? Do you think, number one, will the Steam machine push Valve past that 4% mark in the first year? How many systems do you think that Valve is going to sell in that first year? Let us know in the comment section down below. And I'm looking forward to reading those comments. All right. We've got another topic that I wanted to talk about today, and it's about a game that Rich and I have been playing, mostly because I bullied Rich into buying it. It was on sale. It's a $40 game, and it's on sale. Well, it was on sale for 30. I don't know if it still is. And that game is Arc Raiders. We talked about it a little bit on the most recent episode of the podcast, which came out on Sunday. And I wanted to spend a little bit more time talking about it because apparently it is doing really well. Arc Raiders is estimated to have surpassed 12 million copies sold, which is bananas to me. Like that game is just really, really popular right now. And I watched like 2 videos about it, and now every single video is just like YouTube is like, "You're an Arc Raiders guy, right?" They just keep throwing it at me. I want to, and I can't stop watching it. My shorts shelf on my phone. I was looking at some because usually I'll like flip through some comedy shorts. No, now it's Arc Raiders stuff. Like I saw Co Carnage streaming it, and this guy showed him where to get something, and he goes, "Don't tell anybody." And he goes, live streaming to 19,000 people right now. So,
Nice.
but Arc Raiders has sold a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of copies. And I gotta say, I am absolutely obsessed with this game. You and I played a few matches the other day. And I'm curious,
Yep.
what do you think about that game? Have you gone back in after that initial run with me? And do you plan to, if not?
No, but the thing is I've been thinking about it, right? Like I'll play other games and like just the smallest thing in another game will make me think of Arc Raiders. And so like I've been thinking about going back into it. Um, and that is interesting because we literally only played 3 matches and we didn't like, you showed me a bunch, but, like, we didn't do a whole lot, right? Like, so it's interesting that it, like, kinda stuck in my craw after just, an hour's worth of gameplay, and it's something that I still think about when playing other games. And the thing is, it just feels good, right? So, like, it takes that extraction shooter genre that is, I think, has a high, or has traditionally had a high skill floor for many people, and made it something that, like, oh, you can just play this, right? Like, you can just not be good, and I was not good that day. You can just not be good and just kind of mess around, and it's still enjoyable. You still, like, just from the movement, from the communication, you get a lot of fun out of just the smallest bit of gameplay.
Yeah, I feel like when I so I mean, quick confession here. I suck at video games. I feel like I'm good at talking about video games, but playing video games, I'm usually not really great. I can muscle through a game no problem, but when it comes to like competitive style games, I'm usually the guy getting my ass handed to me. And I'm fine with it. I'm not competitive. I don't care if I win. But when I play Arc Raiders, I always feel like I'm accomplishing something because there's a million different little bars that you can fill up when playing that game. You can fill up your XP bar. If you get killed in the game, as long as you did 1 ounce of damage to an arc, which are like the robots that fly around, you get some XP at the end. And when you get some XP, well, then you can spend that XP where when you level up, you can spend that point to make your character better. So now you are more powerful than you were before, which is great. But at the same time, I don't feel like if Rich and I were on the same map and we were fighting each other, I don't feel like even though I'm level 30 and he's level 1 or level 2, I don't feel like I'm 1,000 times more powerful than he is, but I do know that like there are things that I could do that he can't. Like I could run further because I have more. My character has more stamina because I specced into that or whatever. In addition to that, let's say that you don't die in your match and you come out of there with some stuff. There's so many places where you can put your loot. So you can use that loot to craft new guns, which make you more powerful when you go into the next run. You can take the loot, and this is something I just found out about like last week. My son told me about. You can take that loot and you can commit it to an expedition, and like I think there's like 45 days left in order to finish out your expedition. So, but like it'll be like, okay, so we need a candlestick, we need some light bulbs, we need a couple of these things and some metal, and you commit those things, and then it levels you up to the next part, the second section of your expedition, and you can keep building on that. And as you go through, um, you continually get better and better and better, and there's something that's just really really awesome about that. It's a great gameplay loop, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and they've balanced it well, where, like, it's something that is alluring, right? Like those upgrades, like the fact that you could sprint further, like like you said, you were going faster than I was, but it also wasn't so much faster that,
Right.
like, I felt like I was hampered. So it gave me something to look forward to, like, oh, I want to put some points into that part of the skill tree. But it also didn't feel like, oh man, I'm basically playing a different game than Bill is. And so, like, they really balanced that well and made it approachable for kind of any level of person that's playing.
Yeah, and something else that I really like about Arc Raiders is they have what's known, and this is something that just came out last week. They have something known as aggression based matchmaking. And I have seen this, and it's true. It works. So when I first started playing, I'm a newbie and I have crappy guns and crappy gear, and I'm afraid of everybody, so I didn't shoot at anybody. And after a while, nobody was shooting at me. Like I was going through and we were just fighting the robots together. I walked up to this one guy, and he was like, "Oh, here, I got this blueprint. Here you go. You can have it." Like just a complete stranger. He just had an extra one and was just giving it away when he could have sold it or something. And so he just gave me that blueprint. That was awesome. And then I ended up getting killed by the Ark, and I decided, okay, well, I don't have anything, so I'm going to go in on a free loadout, and I'm going to be a risk taker, and I'm going to see if I can take out some other players and maybe get some of the stuff that they have. So I went into another match, and I saw a dude and I shot at him, got killed, and when I loaded into the next match, I did it again. But then after a while, everybody was shooting at me. As soon as I would see somebody, they started shooting at me, and I was like, okay, here's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to go in, and every time I see somebody, I'm going to use the little ping wheel, and I'm going to say, hey, don't shoot, don't shoot. And after a while, everybody stopped shooting at me. And so now when I sit down to play, every once in a while, I'll still get some guy that kills me, but everybody's just nice. It's such a weird mechanic that I've never seen in any other game. Have you ever seen anything like that before, Rich?
Not like that. I've seen like they'll do like cheater hell, right? Like where they'll just put cheaters in the same server or whatever, but nothing like this. And it is really nice. I mentioned to you, and I'm curious to hear the commenters' thoughts. I mentioned to you that one article that talked about the experiment they did where it was, I think, two friends, one played exclusively on PC with no crossplay, one played exclusively on console with no crossplay, something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and went to see which audience was friendlier, and it turned out the PC audience was friendlier, and I thought that was really funny. And I wonder what the motivation is. Like we talked about, like maybe it's that people have mics and things like that. But I want to hear kind of from the commenters and think, what do you think is the reason that like PC audience is so much friendlier than the console audience?
Yeah, I don't know. It was so remember when I was talking about that I went into a match and I was like, I'm gonna shoot some dudes now. I went into a match and I said, I shot at this guy, and instead of shooting back, he goes, whoa, 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 I really don't want that to happen. And I was like, you know what? Fine, I'm not going to shoot at you anymore. And I literally, I pushed the button so he could hear me talk, and I'm like, you know what, buddy? I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. Let's go kill some robots together. And we went off and hung out, and it was really cool. It's like that kind of
Amazing.
interaction has never happened in a game with me before, and it's because most games they're either all PvP or they're not PvP, and this is
Mhm.
this weird mix of both, and it's just really really cool.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's my first time playing an extraction shooter for real. So
same.
I'm glad that this is my first one. I'm really enjoying it.
There is one thing that I do want to mention though, because I feel like I'm gushing about this game that I'm currently completely obsessed with, and I have like 37 hours in it already. And I just got it over Christmas break, so that's a lot for me. I usually don't play that much. Um, they are using AI, and they're using AI to generate voice lines apparently, and this feels super scummy to me, especially because the voice lines, like how many voice lines are in this game? It's like 4 voice lines. It's like don't shoot, high raider, like this kind of thing. It's like they could have easily hired somebody to do that. But Embark, which is the company that makes this game, they also made, what was the other game that they made? I can't remember the name of the Frontier. No, the is another shooter. Maybe
I'm looking it up.
maybe the chat will know. See if the chat can beat Rich to the Google punch of when the other game that was made by these guys. It's Embark Studios made the game.
The finals.
The finals, thank you. Yes, the finals
Yeah.
also has like this AI thing. It makes more sense in the finals because in the finals, it's like this announcer that's like, "Oh, look at this. This team is doing this and this team's doing that." And he's kind of like the announcer is giving you all of like a play-by-play as you're playing the game. It's kind of like you're watching a football or a basketball game or something like that. But in this, it's just
Oh,
like 4 or
one
5
one of the
lines.
one of the commenters are saying it's about the ping. So like if you're in teams, you can ping every single object, and the character will say the name of it. So I guess AI is used to dynamically say what the item is.
Okay, I mean, fair, but on the same at the same time, they know the names of the items in the game already. Like they could have just hired somebody to say flashlight, egg sandwich, whatever it happens to be, they could have had somebody just record that instead of using AI. That's the thing that I don't like about this game. And I don't know how you feel about it, but I found out about the AI after the fact, after I'd already paid money for it. And I was kind of soured on it. And I was like, I kind of wish I didn't support it. But at the same time, I can't stop playing and it's super fun. And I want other people to have fun too. So I talk about the game. But part of it makes me feel like, I'm not, I just don't like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've alluded to it in the past. I have really nuanced feelings on AI and the usage of AI. So, for example, when I hear it's being used dynamically like that, I kind of go back to a little bit of first principles of accessibility, right? So, when
Hmm.
you make something more accessible, and I don't mean accessibility in the traditional, like someone is handicapped, they can't use. What I mean here is, for example, making music. The equipment to make music used to be prohibitively expensive in the 80s, right?
Hmm.
And before. Through the 80s to the early 2000s, it became more accessible with tooling that was more affordable and, eventually digitized. And so when you have that, you have uh, a flood of creators that are now available to make things that they were not able to make before. And so AI in some instances can be seen as that way, but it has such a higher cost associated to it than those new music making tools did, right? So like we're talking about energy cost, we're talking about the cost that it has on our hardware when we want to buy RAM, we're talking about potentially jobs being lost. So there is a lot of cost associated to it, and so to me it's not black and white, it's just a very layered, very nuanced subject. So I I find it icky that they could have used traditional voice acting for all of it, but it doesn't seem like the worst use of AI, which I think is a pretty the bars in hell, right? But it
Hmm.
doesn't seem like the worst use of AI that I've seen so far.
And of course, as it always happens, the folks in chat know more than I do, and they have said some really interesting things here. So, Gentle Stone in chat says they did hire actors, and they trained on those voices. They did it the right way. So suddenly, all of my qualms about it are gone. They hired actors and they said, "Hey, actors, we're going to train you on your voice so that you don't have to come in and record when we say add some new item to the game. We're just going to generate it based on that." And if the actors agreed to that, then that sounds perfectly reasonable to me. I have no problem with that now. Does that change how you think about it?
I was wondering because I had heard of a case where the voice actors were paid. I wasn't sure if this was it, but I was wondering. And now I'm thinking they did the same thing in the finals, I want to say, where they paid the voice actors. That certainly alleviates a lot of my concerns. And text to speech is a pretty like narrow scope here, where it's not like, again, it's not like you're necessarily seeing art that would have been hand drawn, but now is, kind of just something that was created by a robot, right? So again, it's nuanced, but I think on a scale, this is a pretty good use case of AI.
Yeah, and then Play Nice Games in chat says AI is just a tool. People need to stop demonizing it. And I understand that AI is a tool, but it's also incredibly wasteful because sure, you could do something that you wouldn't be able to do before for a lot less money, but at the same time, like I watched this video the other day about people who live near a data center and like the audio levels in their houses was over 100 decibels, and I was like, that's insane that kind of thing is happening to them. The cost of electricity goes through the roof if you live near one of these places because they're using all of that electricity and they're getting breaks, but like you and me, we don't get breaks on that stuff. So I understand that AI is just a tool, and um when you look at technology, technology always gives us tools to do these things. I get that. I'm fine with it if the actors signed off on it, but that doesn't take away the fact of all of the other negative things that do come with AI. But I appreciate that they did it right here by getting the actors on board. I think that's very cool. All right. Let us know what you guys think about Arc Raiders in the comments down below. If you like that game, are you playing it a bunch? What level are you? What's your favorite thing about it? Let us know. I'm having a blast with it, and I hope to. I know Jimmy has the game too, and I'm trying to wrangle Carrie into buying it as well, so that like we can all play together. Well, not all because the max is 3, but so that we can play together because it's just such a damn fun game. I had a bunch of people in chat was saying, "Hey, you guys should stream this." I don't want you guys seeing me play video games because I suck. I suck so bad. And I don't want to hear, "Well, Bill, why don't you just shoot the guy?" And I'm like, I know. I can't hit him.
Yeah, this is at our yeah, is especially in Arc Raiders, I feel like we are just this is us playing badly, and we want to be able to play badly.
Yeah.
No question.
And I don't need the distraction of chat while I'm playing. Like it's hard enough to focus on all the different sounds that you hear when you're playing the game because it is a very sound centric game. Having my eyeballs distracted as well by looking at chat, no thanks. But I don't know, maybe I'll change my mind later on down the road. All right, let's move on and talk about NVIDIA. Apparently, they revealed DLSS 4.5 at CES today, and basically it says this: NVIDIA also says users will be able to set the target FPS in the app, up to the display's maximum refresh rate, with the feature dynamically adjusting how many frames are generated to meet the goal. So this is fake frames all over again. I haven't watched his video yet, but I saw the Linus Tech Tips video where he said, "I'm mad that frame generation is this good." I have been somebody who said over and over and over that if you cannot tell if the fake frames are fake, then it doesn't matter. And I know that there's a lot of people, especially in our audiences, that really, really feel like you gotta like they're, what did Russ call them? The raster boys, I think. It has to be raster or nothing. I don't mind fake frames if they look good. And apparently DLSS 4.5 looks good with, I guess, up to 6x frame generation, which is bananas to me.
Really bananas. I did watch about half of the LTC video, and it seemed impressive. I'll be honest, I'll probably never find out. Like, NVIDIA is
Same.
not gonna send me a card, and I'm not gonna ask them to, and I'm not gonna spend 1,000 plus on a graphics card that I can't use on Linux, right? Like, so, uh, hopefully AMD gets as good as NVIDIA has been with the fake frames and all the other technology, but I probably will never find out how good this actually is. And to be honest, I've been really content with like my 1440p 60 FPS experience that I have on most games. And I don't know, I think that's fine. But I get it if yeah, it does seem impressive. So by the way, did you also see that they released or they're releasing a new uh Linux app for GeForce Now?
Oh, no, that's cool. Well, wait, no. So GeForce Now already has an app available for the Steam Deck. Is this a different app?
Yeah, I don't know if they're calling it an upgrade or what, but this that app, the one for the Steam Deck, was I think some of the complaints were that it didn't work well with like other distros, for example.
Oh,
And so
okay.
this app is for all Linux PCs, as far as I understand it.
Oh, that's really cool. I have to admit, like, so full transparency, I'm a NVIDIA, I forget how they phrase it, ambassador or something, because they gave me access to GeForce Now. So I have a GeForce Now account that I get that I don't pay for, but um, every time I've used it, I'm impressed. But I also don't like the fact that every single tier now has wait times. it didn't start like that. It started where if you paid for the ultimate, you didn't have any wait, or not wait times, limits to how many hours you can stream for. And when I like just for my personal use, there's zero chance that I'm going to hit that limit in my personal use. But I feel like if you're paying for the highest tier, there should not be a limit to how long you can play for. Like it's really it's pretty expensive. And the fact that yeah, it's 100 hours, but hitting that 100 hours it for me impossible, but there's a lot of people out there that just play games all day long. And they're going to hit that wall, and when they do hit that wall, suddenly they can't play anything, and that kind of sucks for them. So that rubs me the wrong way. I think that they should have the most expensive tier just be unlimited. You could just play as long as you want because it's the most expensive one. You know what I mean? How do you feel about that, Rich?
I, you know me, I don't like subscriptions. I will say I did, just as an aside, I did get my wife YouTube Premium for Christmas. It's something that you and I have talked about a lot, about YouTube Premium and whether or not it's something that I would pick up. I didn't pick it up for myself, but I did pick it up for my wife, and she's been really happy with YouTube Premium. So that's awesome. But yeah, I don't. I mean, that notion that it got worse, right? Like the subscription got worse. That's not unique, right? Like that
No.
is part of what happens with a subscription, is that it's going to get worse. And there are lots of problems with, digital ownership more broadly, but those problems are smaller than I think what I would have to deal with if I'm just kind of depending on renting hardware effectively.
Yeah, and that is what you're doing. You are renting their hardware, and it works really well. I'm somebody who's done live stream or game streaming on Stadia, on Xbox, and on Nvidia's GeForce Now. Stadia was always the one that was the best. GeForce Now has easily caught up and now surpassed it, but of course that's not a huge surprise because Stadia shut down. Um, just to mention, you talked about YouTube Premium. I'm telling you right now, dude, like, and I'm going to say this to everybody watching. I already saw some people complaining that there were ads in the live stream. Guys, YouTube Premium, I will get rid of Netflix. I will get rid of HBO. I will get rid of everything else. I will get rid of everything before I get rid of YouTube Premium. And I say that as somebody who, when you watch an ad on my channel, I make more money than I do if you get YouTube Premium and watch my stuff. But I still would use YouTube Premium because God, it's so damn good. Like I cannot stand how many ads that YouTube injects into videos.
You know what phenomenon that we've noticed that's interesting is, you would think that like people leave videos sooner, like if they're not good, they leave them sooner when they have ads versus YouTube Premium. But what my wife noticed is that like sometimes the break kind of props up a bad YouTube video. Like if a YouTube video is bad and like kind of just droning on, having a break 5 minutes in is kind of like, oh, like it kind of breaks up what's going on. Whereas like a good YouTuber has to sustain you that entire time, right? No
Mm-hmm.
matter what they're doing, they have to sustain you there that entire time. And that was definitely unlike what I would have expected. But yeah, the YouTube experience is better on YouTube Prime. Like that's obvious. The question is whether or not the price is worth it. Right now, yes, is my answer based on what I've seen. But I'm under no delusion that they'll keep it that price indefinitely.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, and
Yeah.
people are saying, sponsor block and all that stuff. And that's great. But then you're making it so the people who you like to watch aren't making any money from what they do. So that's just something else to keep in mind. I'm not trying to guilt trip anybody. I'm just saying why I don't use things like sponsor block or anything like that. Also, then you wouldn't see Bob Wolf's awesome ads where he's talking to himself and having arguments. Like those are fun to watch, and you'd miss out on those if you're doing that. All right, you sent this link over. Steam is making a lot of money. Holy cow.
I don't. I don't even know how to think about that. Like, how do you process that number? So the headline is Steam generated $1.6 billion in gross revenue in December in
Right.
one single month.
Now, is
I-
that just Steam's take, or is that like for Steam and for all of, the games, like the game companies as well? Like, is that just Steam's take?
that is no, is that Steam stake? No, that's the
I'm
you know
not.
what? I don't know. I
Oh,
took that as the full kit and caboodle, right? So $1.6 billion dollars of transactions on Steam. So Steam's take would only be 30% of that. I don't know if they say in that article, but that's how I took that, which is still an insane amount.
it is. It's like for 1 month, that's a crazy number. And what's even more interesting is the growth. It says right here in the article, the growth, and this is found over at Notebook Check, by the way. It says the growth is significant when compared to previous years. December 2025 revenue was 22.7% higher than December 2024. 22.7% higher in 1 year. That is absolutely crazy. And it says it also surpassed December 2020, which was 1.4 billion during the pandemic, basically during the video game boom, uh, which is where all of these companies were making so much money that they decided, okay, we got to hire 1 billion developers so that we can keep up with everything that we have to do. And then afterwards, they were like, we got too many developers. We got to start firing people. And that's why we saw so many firings since the pandemic. But they passed that too, that's a crazy number to me. Like, Valve cannot stop winning, and they haven't done much to change. Like, that's the thing. You would think of these huge growth numbers, concurrency over after concurrency increasing. You would think of that would be because they made this significant change, and it made everybody like, whoa, look at that, I'm going to jump over there. And there's going to be people in our audience that is going to say, hey, you know what, that's because of the Steam Deck. And I'm going to say it's absolutely not because of the Steam Deck. Like, there's 7 million. I think we're being generous if we say that they've sold 7 million Steam Decks. That's not going to get you to $1.6 billion in gross revenue in 1 month. That's just crazy. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that number is insane, kind of unfathomable. And we don't get a lot of numbers from companies. So like, I'm not saying that like Sony PSN hasn't reached this number on their shop on their I really have no idea. So this is the first time I'm seeing a number like this, but it just feels really insane. Someone did the math that 30% of 1.6 billion is 480 million. So just imagining that that's the cut, not, there's still costs associated to it, but
Yeah.
that would be the cut that Valve gets from those sales is again still unfathomable. And yeah, I think that it is curious that you mentioned the fall off from the pandemic, right? Like the pandemic, like you said, was a big spike for gaming, and it caused a lot of people, a lot of corporations to invest into gaming. And then when that spike subsided, a lot of those same corporations withdrew their money, their funding. And it's curious that Valve has sort of been able not to have that same momentum, but still have an upwards trajectory that I think other companies have not had. I may be missing a few, but I think most of the companies we've seen, they had this huge spike, and then everything really fell kind of lower in terms of their growth. And yeah, Valve just has not kind of exhibited that same notion.
Yeah, well, that's because they didn't hire like crazy. I think how many people work at Valve is like 300 people. It's like a ridiculously small number of people for how much revenue they generate.
Yeah, and they're easily the highest revenue per employee like tech company that's like higher than Apple, Facebook, etc.
Right. It's very, very crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So those are the stories that we had for you guys ahead of time. If you guys have things that you want us to talk about, you can use that super chat feature, or you can just fire it into the chat. I'm looking at a few things that I favorited as the chat was scrolling by earlier. Um, first off, we have this question or yeah, question from Chris Stamp 6552. They said, would Half-Life 3 launching at the same time as the Steam machine affect the sales numbers? And I think that's a very interesting question because I think most people would look at that and they would say, well, absolutely, of course it would. It's one of the biggest game what's the word I'm looking for? Franchises of
Events.
events too. It's one of the biggest game franchises or events of all time. How couldn't it propel sales forward? And my answer is this. Valve has said many times that they are not interested in exclusives, especially like you look at the Steam Deck. When the Steam Deck first came out, they put out one game that I would say is an exclusive, although I have never tried to use it on anything else. And actually, I'm sure it's not an exclusive because when the Steam controller comes out, you'll be able to play Aperture Desktop, no problem. But Valve was asked, are you going to make Steam Deck exclusives? And they're like, why in God's name would we do that? That would cost us money. Like less people would be able to play the games that we want to sell, and that means they wouldn't pay for them. So no, we're not going to make exclusives, and so I don't see Half-Life 3 turning into an exclusive for the Steam machine. And if it's not an exclusive for the Steam machine, then what would the point be of like how could it affect the sales numbers? What do you think about that, Rich?
What was the original comment? Because I didn't read it that way.
Oh, it says, would Half-Life 3 launching at the same time affect the sales numbers
Yeah.
of the Steam machine?
Yeah. So I don't think this. There are some comments kind of alluding to it being exclusive, but I don't read this comment. And actually, it's from the same person, Chris Stamp. Actually, so maybe that is how they meant it. Would it affect it if it was an exclusive? By the way, Bill, random, but I've been sending you a message, so
Oh, sorry.
check your Discord. But that said, I think that a few things. I think that for would the Steam machine Half-Life 3 being released at the same time, whether or not it was exclusive, at the same time as the Steam machine help sales? I think so. So like it doesn't have to be about like I will buy a Steam machine, so I'm going to buy Half-Life 3, but I think there's a reason that Valve announced all three pieces of hardware at the same time, and it's to make more hype, right? Like take the hype and make it more so that if you're interested in the Steam controller, but not the Steam frame, you're interested in the Steam frame, but not the Steam controller. Like you're taking all of these audiences, all of the Venn diagrams, whether there's overlap or not, and you're coalescing it into one. And Valve is now more of the news cycle. And so, if it's true, all of these rumors that Valve is also going to include Half Life 3 in these announcements, then I think that only just drives the hype further and makes more of the news cycle and has Valve just more at the top of mind. So if you are someone that's looking out for Half-Life 3, you're more likely to pick it up on day one. That's my thought.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think that the people who are looking forward to Half-Life 3 are already the people who are prone to well, actually no, I don't think that that's true either. So you know what, here's how I think it could, if you're looking for ways to boost sales for the Steam machine, make Half-Life 3 a pack-in, also sell it to everybody, but make it a pack-in on the Steam machine. That'll help quite a bit, I think.
Yeah, I think that no matter what, it's going to be something like this is just an event, right? Like this is a moment, all of this that everyone's going to have their eyes on Valve, and it's going to add a little bit to each of those things. Whether or not it's going to be like a big impact, who knows? Now, on the concept of exclusive, the other thing when I looked at what Chris Stamp said was imagine what Half-Life 3 would bring on its own if it was a Steam exclusive. So there he says a Steam exclusive. He doesn't say Steam machine exclusive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I do expect that Half-Life 3 will one day come to consoles, but probably not on day one. And it's not likely to be on Epic Game Store, probably not GOG. So I think effectively it will be a Steam exclusive, at least for some time.
And you know what's really funny to me is everybody gets mad at Epic when they put out something and they won't put it on Steam. But if Valve puts it out and they don't put it on Epic, everybody's going to be perfectly fine with that. And that cracks me up.
No comment. I've made lots of videos about this. Yeah, it is funny.
Very cool. All right. We are just about out of time. You guys could have spent, I can't believe that I posted this. There were 420 people here earlier today. That's awesome. Thank you guys so much for showing up. Rich, I just mentioned that I was doing a live stream and he was like, when you doing it? I want to hang out. And I was like, all right, man, you're always welcome. So Rich, before we get out of here, tell everybody where they can find all of your stuff that you're never posting.
I'm at youtube.com/fanthedeck. I want to shout out a demo. Let's see, which one do I want to shout out? I'm going to go with Flip Up. So Flip Up is a Fadian, which means like Bennett Foddy.
No, you need more explanation than that.
So Bennett Foddy is the developer of Getting Over It, right? So it's a getting style game, but pinball. So I thought of you, Bill, when I saw this game. The only problem is because it's like Getting Over It, it's a rage game, right? Like it's very, very difficult. But the goal is to get to the top, and one small mistake can send you roaring back to the bottom. It is difficult. I haven't made it outside of the like entry area, but I don't know. It's fun.
Yeah, no, not for me. I don't want to go all the way back to the beginning. If I screw up, I want save points. I want checkpoints. But this reminds me of a game. I cannot remember the name of the game off the top of my head, and I don't want to go looking for it because that'll like slow things down. But there's another pinball game where you are just climbing. You're basically climbing a tower, and you have like special abilities, like you can set things on fire with the pinball and stuff like that. And I've talked about it on the show before. If anybody in the chat remembers the name of that game, please let us know. I cannot remember it. Flip Up, no thank you for me. I'm not interested.
Pinball Spire.
Yes, that's it. Pinball Spire. How did you just remember that, dude? You just remember everything.
I looked up pinball in my Steam library.
Oh, okay. Oh, because you bought it too?
Yeah, I did.
Did you ever play it?
Yes, but I didn't get into it really. Not that it wasn't good. I just didn't spend enough time with it. So I only played like 35 minutes. So I much more enjoyed you talking about it.
Fair enough. All right. That's going to do it for this episode. Make sure that you check out Rich's channel over at youtube.com/fanthedeck. And if you're, I'm not sure if this is going to go on the Spotify or Apple podcast. You know what? I'm going to put it on the podcast feed as well. So if you're listening to this and you want to check out the episode, make sure that you head over to youtube.com/NerdNest. Rich, it was awesome talking to you as always, man.
Yes, man. Great talk.
Take it easy, everybody. Have a great day, and thank you for coming to hang out with us. From the Nerd Nest, I'm Bill. Stay rad, everyone. Bye-bye.